Hey, let's talk about using the iPod Touch, and in this case, the 6th generation iPod Touch here in 2024. So first, I want to start off with two not so good things about this, at least mine in particular. One is I have just the base version, which only has 16 gigabytes of storage, which means in order to do the latest update, I had to delete some stuff because it didn't have enough storage to do the latest update. And the latest update is just iOS 12. So it is not up to date as far as the latest iOS goes. And then you see here I have mine plugged in, and that is because the battery dies rather fast on mine. You can get battery replacements. You gotta send them into Apple. They should be able to replace them. They're not exactly cheap though. I think they're a bit less than $100 here in the US. So those are a couple bad things. Other than that, this is a okay device for how old this thing is, and being in 2024 here. First, I just want to show it off. I have the nice bright blue color, and then I does have a camera on the back, which is actually pretty decent, and also a flash there. And you also do get a headphone jack, and of course you do also have a external speaker, which I'll show that off a bit later. I think you also do have a front-facing camera. As far as size goes, I have a iPhone 13 mini right here. You see this is a very small phone by today's standards, and it is bigger than the iPod Touch is. And then if you go with a actually big phone, such as iPhone 15 Pro Max, it is just a gigantic monster compared to the iPod Touch, and it's also like double the thickness. That's just for size comparisons. Of course, this thing is super duper thin. In a way, I wish they made phones still this size. In a way. But as far as actually using this thing goes, we'll go online here. So like loading into Pokemon.com right away. For easy websites like this, it does actually load in pretty quick. So like our Pokedex here. Of course, it's not going to be the quickest thing. This is a pretty old device. But websites like this loads in rather well. Go with something heavier like BestBuy.com. Is going to take longer to load in, and it's not going to be the quickest things. And then that's just going to take a little bit of time. And there it goes. But you can see it does load it in. So it does still work for web browsing. It just is not going to be the quickest of devices for that. As far as cameras go here, I'll show you guys a picture I took years ago, 2019, so 5 years ago. But I like this picture because it was outside. It was for a hike. You can actually see my reflection there. And you can see how well it actually shows up all the words and the picture of the hiking trail, walking trail here, which is pretty cool. Again, that was a nice, bright, sunny day. But the camera actually is pretty decent for what it is. Next, let's talk about using something like Kindle on here, something for reading books. And this thing is super duper light and tiny, so it's actually pretty easy to hold on to without getting your arms super tired. And it actually still looks pretty good. You can see it's pretty quick here. Actually, it's rather quick here. Of course, these are just books. You can also turn it sideways as well. You get a little bit more on per page. So for reading, it is pretty good. Get out of that. And then if you want to do something like a comic book, so you have Archie's here. So we have Betty and Veronica, the Archie comic. You can see it's all nice and colorful. Of course, you can zoom in and you can zoom out if you wish. You can zoom in and out. So again, this is a very small display. So comics are a little bit harder to read. You can also, again, turn it sideways. And you can only zoom out so far. So it's a little bit harder to read this, and you gotta zoom down like that. Or swipe down like that. So I mean, it's still very readable. And again, you can zoom in and out, but it is a small display. So it's a little bit harder to read than, say, something like on an iPad. Something like an iPad. Or modern day phone. Now let's talk about watching videos here and the speaker. So as far as watching videos go, again, this is a super duper tiny display. The display does actually look pretty decent though. I mean, not a bad looking display, but it is super duper tiny. As far as sound goes, so volume is up all the way. The speaker's right here. So it's definitely not the loudest of things, but it doesn't sound too bad. I mean, I wouldn't want to be really watching too many videos on this, but if you needed to, you could definitely do it. It's probably better for listening to like music, as of course it does have iTunes on it. That does bring me to another point though I need to make, is that not all apps that you can get on the App Store are going to be the latest version of the app. So for instance, the YouTube app, when I re-downloaded it, it told me it cannot download the latest version because this is only running iOS 12 and not iOS 14. So it could only it cannot do the latest version of YouTube. And that's going to be how a lot of apps are going to be. Then last, let's talk about doing something like Roblox on here. The problem with doing something like Roblox on here, trying to get Arsenal to load in before showing it off, and it just kicks you out of the app. So you might be able to play some Roblox games like the super low graphic ones, ones that don't take a lot of graphical power. But a lot of these apps, a lot of the games are just going to kick you out of the app. So I got on here. I'm trying to change my settings and I can't get to change the settings. So a lot of games are not really going to work that well on here. Games like Roblox, games like probably Call of Duty, stuff like that, it's just not really going to work on this old of a device. I mean, this is really a device that was always meant more for listening to music and maybe taking some pictures, more than it was really for anything else. I mean, especially nowadays, now that it has been quite a few years since this thing was released. But if you want something just for music, it is good. For watching some YouTube, it is fine. Reading Kindle, it's actually pretty good because it's so light and small, as long as you don't mind a small display. But yeah, y'all let me know what you think. Thank you all for watching. Hope you have a good one. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.